My stepdad took my mom and his kids on a secret vacation, left me home alone, blamed me for a robbery, and his lies finally destroyed their marriage forever. I am a 16-year-old guy, and I am in high school right now. My mom got married to my stepdad, Eddie, 2 years ago. My mom is 40, and he is 42 years old. My parents never got married. I was actually the result of a really short fling after college that they thought would end in a couple of months. But then my mom got pregnant, and she did not want to terminate it, so she had me. My dad also wanted to be a part of my life, so they have shared custody of me, and I switch homes every month. I spend the year alternately with my mother and my father, splitting my time equally between them. I love my parents, and I know that both of them have made quite a number of sacrifices for me in order to be close to me. The first and biggest one is that they have had to live in the same city for years, so I do not find the commute between the two houses too difficult to deal with. I did not know about it earlier, but now I know that both my parents have had to give up on multiple opportunities to rise in their careers just because they had to remain in the same city and live close to each other, all for my sake. My mom apparently also had to reject several men who were head over heels in love with her because of the child, because she wanted to focus on raising me instead of getting married and having to deal with having a husband and balancing her work life and her personal life, and all that jazz. I know these things now, thanks to Eddie, indirectly, because he is not exactly the best stepfather that one could ask for, and my mother has had to tell me all of this in order to make me accept him. She thinks that if she could make so many sacrifices for my sake, I should be able to return the favor, at least a little bit, and accept Eddie. I do not know how that works, because I did not ask her to make these sacrifices for me. She could have easily just terminated the pregnancy or just let my father take over raising me entirely. But anyway, I never argued with her about any of this because I love her and I want her to be happy, so I was ready to accept Eddie, even though he was not a very nice guy. By not a nice guy, I do not mean that he is mean to me in any way whatsoever. I just mean that he does not like me, and he does not bother to hide it. I do not know what kind of 42-year-old has issues with a 16-year-old guy, but he definitely does. I do not know why he does not like me because I never did anything to piss him off, and as a matter of fact, I have always tried to be nice to him because that is how my family has raised me, to be nice to everybody, even when they show you that they do not like you. He never speaks to me rudely and never makes comments about me. And the reason behind that is that he does not speak to me at all. He pretends like I do not exist in the family, and this has been going on for the past 3 years. I literally have no idea what I ever did to piss him off, but one day he just decided that he was not going to speak to me, and he was going to start acting like I was not there at all. It is the weirdest thing in the world, and I am not really used to this kind of treatment. It is like he is giving me the cold shoulder for something, but I do not know what it is, so I cannot even fix my behavior because I do not even know what his problem with me is. My mother says that that is just the way he is. He does not have a problem with me, but he does not necessarily like me either. However, I feel like if you do not like somebody, there should at least be a reason for it, especially when you are 42 and the other person is literally just 16. I guess it has something to do with the dynamics of me being my mother's first child or whatever. I do not even know, but the bottom line is that he does not like me, and he has made it very obvious. Earlier, we used to get on okay, and the first couple of times that he came home, he would interact with me and ask me all sorts of questions about my life, and I would be very polite and answer him, but after one visit he just decided that he was not going to speak to me. It was very random, and I did not understand why he did that at the time. I did not question it because I thought maybe he had just forgotten to say hi to me or whatever. But then it happened so many times, it became hard to ignore. So, I even asked my mother if I had done something to make him angry, because he was acting like I was not there in the house, and he would turn his face away every time I entered the living room or any room that he was in. She did not tell me anything about it. She just said that he was trying to wrap his head around the fact that now he would have to deal with me being there all the time. And maybe he was just not used to it, because before this he had only dated women who did not have kids. I found that hard to believe because he himself had 2 kids. He had 2 sons. One was 15 and the other was 12. Their mother had passed away in an accident after the younger sibling was born. Also, it was not true that I would be there all the time, because as I had mentioned above, I used to go to my dad's house to live with him every other month. But anyway, a few months passed that way, and eventually I just accepted the fact that this was how he was, and he was not going to speak to me anymore. After a year of being in a relationship, he proposed to my mother, and they got married a few months later. After their marriage, Eddie moved into the house with his kids. Before that, I had only met his children a couple of times, and even they had been taught by their father not to speak to me. It was just so crazy, and I do not even know how I dealt with that for so long, for years as a matter of fact. Before getting married, Eddie and my mother used to live separately because Eddie's mother was really sick, and she used to live with them. But after they got married, he decided to move her in with his sister, so she would be able to take care of her, and he moved in with my mom into our house with his children. I do not know if any of you guys have ever experienced this, but it is really not easy to live in the same house with a bunch of people who will not talk to you and pretend that you do not even exist. But I had to put up with that, and it made me feel really bad because I felt like I was a criminal of some sort, judging by the way they treated me. The worst part was that I never got to find out what I did wrong in the first place. I still have no idea, but at least I'm not living with them anymore, so it does not matter anyway. Years passed, and their behavior did not change. Even though I got used to it, I was already used to Eddie not speaking to me whenever he would come over to visit my mother, which was quite frequent. After they got married, I got used to him and his kids living in the same house with me and not speaking to me. Every time I would go to my mother's place, I would have to prepare myself mentally to only talk to my mother for the next couple of weeks. She was the only person who would speak to me in that house, and everybody else pretended like I was not there, like I was invisible. It was hurtful. But I did want to spend time with my mother, so I had to deal with it because I knew that she was not going to talk to Eddie about it. Trust me, I had tried to convince her innumerable times to talk to him about it and get to the bottom of this, or at least try to solve it. But she told me that she had already spoken to him about it, and there were a couple of personal reasons that she could not disclose to me, which is why he refused to acknowledge my existence in the house, and she could not do anything about it. She understood where he was coming from, and she also understood why I felt bad about it, but I would just have to suck it up and deal with it. If I tried to argue with her and stand up for myself, she would get all emotional and tell me that I was being ungrateful because I was overlooking the fact that she had made so many sacrifices for me. So I could surely just give Eddie a pass for behaving with me the way that he did and just deal with it for her sake. I wanted to fight with her, but I did not want to hurt her feelings. I never even told my father about any of this because I knew that if he got to find out about it, he would be very upset and would definitely drag my mother for this. They were very different people and had very different ideas on how to bring me up, so they kept having little arguments and fights. But I knew that something this huge would probably lead to my father filing for full custody or something extreme. I did not want to stir up drama, so I avoided telling him and pretended that everything was fine with my mother and her new family. Eddie and my mother had been together for 1 year before they got married, and it has been 2 years since they have been living together, so I've been putting up with this sort of behavior for 3 years now, and I have been pushed to my limit and stretched very thin. Recently, what happened was what really pushed me off the edge, and I decided that I was no longer going to put up with this. Last month, I was supposed to be spending the month at my mother's house, and as usual, Eddie and his kids had been ignoring me. I was already going through a rough patch because I'd been fighting with a couple of my friends from school, and I was really not in the right headspace at the time. So, about 2 weeks ago, when I woke up one morning and I realized that the house was absolutely empty, I started losing my mind over it. Update 1. So, it has been 2 weeks since the incident, and a lot of things have come to light since then. First of all, I was finally able to figure out why Eddie hated me so much. Apparently, as it turns out, when they had first started dating, Eddie had asked my mother if he could bring his mother over to live with them. My mom had said no because she was not comfortable with the idea of them moving in together so soon, and definitely not okay with the idea of her mother-in-law who was ailing to come live with her. She thought that it would be too much work for her and was not up for it, even though Eddie had made it very clear that she had a full-time nurse to look after her, and she just needed people to be around for her emotional needs. My mother was already not ready to move in with Eddie and be together, and she did not want the extra baggage of having her mother-in-law live with her. But instead of being upfront with him, she pinned it all on to me, and this was about 3 months into their relationship. They were getting pretty serious about each other at that point, even though I think it was way too soon for them. But anyway, that is my mother's choice, and I do not want to comment on that. She had basically lied to Eddie and told him that she would be okay with him moving in with her and bringing his mom and kids along to live with us. But she was not sure if it was such a good idea because of me. She had made me sound like some juvenile delinquent and told him that she had dated a couple of men in the past, but they had all been driven away because of me. Apparently, I terrorized her boyfriends because I wanted to protect her and keep everybody away since I still believed I could reunite my parents, and she did not want to break my heart. She also did not want Eddie's mother to suffer because of me, because she had told him that I had a lot of comments to make about his family. She had told Eddie that I had referred to his mother as a useless burden on the family, and I had told her that if she moved in with us, then I would make sure that she suffered for it. Something that I would never say because that is just not me, and I know how insensitive it is. And apparently, I had referred to his kids as little evil goblins who were going to ruin our family. Obviously, after that, he had stopped interacting with me at all because he did not want anything to do with me. He had actually believed my mother even though I had always acted very normally around him, and he had no reason to believe her. I found out about it a couple of days ago, since Eddie had been pushing my mother to disown me and cut all ties with me because of what I had done. And he thought that it was about time, but she did not want to do that, so she finally had to come clean to him. And now they are living separately because Eddie could not believe that he had been treating me so badly over a bunch of lies that my mother had fed him, just because she was too afraid to tell him the truth, that it was she who was against having his sick mother live with them, and not me. In that email he even mentioned that he would not have had an issue if my mother had been honest with him and told him that she did not have the bandwidth to deal with a sick person in the house, and he would have just spoken to his sister and made sure that they took turns taking care of their mom. But she chose to lie to him, and made up such a horrible story about me that he believed and kept mistreating me. He sent me an email to apologize to me for everything that he had put me through and hoped that I would forgive him. I have not responded to it yet because I do not know how to feel about any of this right now, and I just want to keep my head clear and not think about any of this at the moment. But anyway, that is why he had been mistreating me for so long, and my mother had been allowing it. In fact, it had been working out in her favor perfectly, and she had been feeding him all sorts of lies about how I kept getting in trouble at school. And he never even questioned it because he trusted her blindly. We never spoke, so he never found out that I was actually quite a normal guy, and that kept my mother's cover from getting blown. She is one twisted lady, I have to say. My father is now filing for full custody after we got to know all of this, and my mother is devastated because she claims that she loved us and wanted us to be a happy family together. But I am sorry, you cannot have a happy family on your own terms and ruin everybody else's life. Update 2. So apparently, not only is my dad filing for full custody, but Eddie is also filing for a divorce. I found out because my mother sent my dad a bunch of messages begging him to talk to Eddie and fix this, because she cannot live without all of us. I do not know how she even expects us to listen to her after everything that she did. She made sure that I was treated shabbily and did not have a problem with it for so many years, knowing that she had been lying through her teeth about me to her husband. I would pray that no person ever has to suffer something like this at the hands of their own mother. I kept wondering about what I did wrong and why I was being hated by her husband and his family for no reason. All this while, she just cared about herself and nothing else. I have blocked her everywhere, and I do not want to speak to her ever again. I had been putting up with a lot of crap for the past few years just because I loved her and I wanted her to be happy. Clearly, she did not feel the same way about her own son and only cared about her own happiness. So that makes the two of us, both of us, put her happiness first. Well, not anymore. Update 3, it is official. Eddie has filed for a divorce. That is literally all that people are talking about right now, my family and a couple of common friends that my parents had. My mother is dealing with this in a very weird way by posting sad quotes on social media, which I have been receiving screenshots of from my cousins. I do not know what she expects, but that is definitely not going to help. She dug her grave, and now she has to lie in it. Update 4, so, my dad has full custody of me now. It has been a couple of months, and my mother put up a good fight, but unfortunately the divorce and everything made it super complicated for her, and we had all the proof of what she had put me through, so she really did not stand a chance. But her lawyer managed to stretch the case out for a couple of months at the very least. Anyway, I do not have to visit my mother now if I do not want to, because my dad is the custodial parent. She does get visitation rights, but I do not know what the point of that is since I do not even want to talk to her anymore. I am happy with my father, and life is going pretty well. I have even made up with my friends, and I am looking forward to moving on. Even up until the night before, everything had been normal, or as normal as it gets in my mother's house. They had been all talking to each other and ignoring me, but there was no mention of them going anywhere at the time. But when I woke up the next morning, I saw that the house was empty, and I immediately called my mother up to ask about it. I had no idea where they were, but thankfully my mother did answer the call. When I asked her what they were playing at, she told me that she and the kids were going out on a little trip for the week and asked me to stay in the house and take care of it. I am on summer break right now, so I do not have school, and I do not really have to go anywhere, but the first do not think it is appropriate to leave me at home all by myself and expect me to act like a watchdog. I was not on board with that plan, and I told my mother as much, that I was not ready to stay at home all day and watch the house. If she wanted something like that, she probably should have just amped up the security around her house instead of tricking me into staying at home. I was also just mostly upset that they had not even told me about their plan to go out on a road trip and left me at home all by myself. They did not even have the courtesy of letting me know about it beforehand so I could decide for myself if I wanted to do it or not. I probably just would have said yes because as a high school guy, there is literally nothing more that we want than an empty house all to ourselves. I probably would have invited a couple of my friends over and lived it up for a few days, but I was so pissed off that I did not even feel like doing that because my mother was treating me like crap, and it made me feel really bad. I was also fighting with my friends, so I did not really have anybody to invite at the time, and I was just going through an overall bad time. I told my mother that she needed to apologize to me for doing this, and I could understand that Eddie did not like talking to me, but the bare minimum that they could do was at least tell me that they were going out somewhere before they left. It was not very nice to just wake up one morning and realize that you were all alone. She told me that I was making a big deal out of this and that I needed to get over it. She did not even wait for me to respond, she just hung up the call. When I tried to call her back, she did not accept it and texted me back saying that she was trying to enjoy her trip and that she would talk to me once she was at the hotel. I was so upset about everything that I decided to leave. I knew that it would mean that the house would be completely empty, but I did not care. I had tried to call my mother after that to let her know that I was leaving, but she did not answer my call, and everything went straight to voicemail. So, I locked up the house and kept the keys of the house under a potted plant, which my mother usually does when she leaves. Then I went over to my dad's place to live with him. Once I got there, he was actually surprised to see me back so early because he had expected me to return after 1 week, since I was supposed to be living with my mother until the end of the month, but the first had had enough. So I just came back to him, and I ended up telling him everything that had been going on. I told him all about Eddie and his ridiculous behavior around me, and how he had even trained his kids not to talk to me. I felt like I had done something wrong, but I did not even know what, and it was getting on my nerves. Then I told him how my mother did not even want to talk to him about this and just let everything go on the way it was, no matter how much it hurt me. Her excuse for that was that she believed that he had his personal reasons, and they were valid. But she was not even willing to tell me what those reasons were, so I would be able to make sense of what was going on around me. I had put up with this for long enough just for my mother's sake. I wanted her to be happy, and she kept reminding me that she had made so many sacrifices for me in her life so I could do this for her. But this was getting way too much to take. I was not going to tolerate it anymore, and I was done. I had to tell my father about it because he deserved to know what my mother was putting me through. And maybe he would be able to do something about the situation because I was just so sick and tired of being treated like this. Even when I have not done anything to piss anyone off, and I have always tried my best to be kind and compassionate towards everybody. And I told him about how my mother had left me at home alone, without even telling me that she and her husband and his kids were going out. And she just expected me to agree to take care of the house, and make sure that everything was in its place, and live on my own for the next week just because she wanted to take a trip. That was not even my biggest problem. My problem with that was she did not even think that it was important to tell me about it. When I tried to talk to her, she just kept hanging up and declining my calls like I was not even important to her. She had really crossed the line, and I could not put up with this anymore. After I was done telling my father about all of this, I started crying because I did not realize just how much all of this had been weighing on me for the past couple of years. I did have a normal relationship with my mother before that, but after she got together with Eddie, everything changed, and nothing was the same anymore. I felt like I was insignificant to her, and it was very difficult for me to accept. After venting to my father about all of this, he just said one thing to me, and that was that he was going to take care of everything for me now. He was obviously very upset, but whatever he had to say to my mother, he did not say any of it to me. He just told me that he was really glad that I had shared this with him, and now it was all off my chest. He told me that I was going to be living with him, and if I wanted to go back to my mother, that was my choice, but he would not suggest doing that to me anyway. I have been living with him, and I did not try to call my mother after that day, and the funny part was that she did not try to call me either. The least that she could have done was try to keep in touch with her son, whom she had left at home all on his own while she traveled with her new family. I was really emotionally hurt by what she was doing, but after speaking to my father, I was feeling considerably lighter, and I had decided that I was not going to let this bother me. For about 5 days we had no contact, and then when she finally called me, I thought it was going to be to check up on me. But when I answered the call, she was yelling at me at the top of her lungs. It took me a few seconds to realize that she was yelling at me because I had left the house, and they had been robbed. Apparently, a lot of stuff that they had left in the house was now gone, including their television and a couple of other expensive items. For some reason, she was blaming me all for it. I do not know why she was doing that because I had tried to call her and inform her that I was leaving and I was going to stay with my father. After she had stopped yelling, I told her that I was not happy about the way she had been treating me, and I had tried to contact her several times after she had hung up, but she kept declining my calls. So she told me that I could have texted her, and as valid as her point was, I told her that I did not do it on purpose because I was mad. I thought it was very obvious, and I had made it very clear to her that I was upset, so she should not have expected me to stay back in the first place. We got into a massive fight about it because she believed that I should have stayed at home no matter how angry or upset I was, because this was a matter of safety, and she had been trusting me and counting on me. But I did not tell her to do that. In fact, I had tried my very best to let her know that I was leaving and did not want to stay at home alone. But she disregarded all of my calls, so now she had to pay the price for it. These were the consequences of her actions, not mine. I found it very ridiculous that they were trying to blame this all on me, including Eddie. The first time that he spoke to me in the last couple of years, it was only to yell at me and blame me for my carelessness. He said a couple of other very confusing things as well, like he had always known that I would be the cause of ruin for them. I do not even know what that is supposed to mean because we do not even interact. I do not know how he came to that conclusion without even speaking to me. Anyway, my parents are now fighting because my dad thinks that this is my mom's fault, and so do I. But she thinks that this is my fault. Now my mother is demanding that my father pay her for the damages since she thinks that if he is defending me for doing this, he should be ready to pay the price for it. I do not understand what to do now, and she will only drop it if I at least apologize to her and her family. I do not want to do that, but I also do not want her to keep bothering my father either. Am I the asshole for leaving my mother's house unoccupied to go live with my father, because she and my stepdad left me home alone to go on a trip with his family without even bothering to inform me?